Hey everybody, long time no see. I'd like to start by addressing the elephant in the room. I haven't made a video in a while. Phew, feels good to have that out of the way. So I bought another 3D printer. And for anybody who knows me personally, I know what you're thinking. Why? I currently own 10 3D printers, 5 of which are operational and maybe 3 of which I use on a semi-regular basis. And you might be thinking that seems excessive, and you would probably be right. A few months ago, after my last video started doing reasonably well, a company reached out to me to ask if I'd like to review one of their products. They said, look at our website and tell us what you'd like to review. So I did. I found a large-scale 3D printer that looked pretty nice for around $900 that was big enough to let me take on a few projects I've been wanting to tackle. So I emailed them back and said, hey, I'll review this printer and make a couple of videos using it for this project I've been wanting to do. And they said, no way in hell. We were thinking more like $60. I'm paraphrasing. So long story short, this video is not sponsored. I bought this printer myself. It's not even the same printer. After I spent some time convincing myself this was a good idea and researching options for upgrades, I decided to buy a CR-10 S5. The print bed is the same size as the printer I wanted, and it cost a couple $100 less than that one. Not to mention I plan on converting it to a Core XY printer at some point in the future, so it appeals to my need to fix things that aren't broken. So getting started with the unboxing. This printer is massive, and the box it came in is even bigger. I did my best to unpack everything on camera by myself, so apologies if I accidentally show off my impressive abs. The table it's sitting on is 30 inches by 60 inches, and it easily takes up the whole table sideways. So this table that previously held 3 printers now only holds this one. As for everything that came in the box, just like the smaller CR10s, this printer came in 2 pieces that are easily screwed together and a separate control box that you have to connect the cables for. There's also a massive piece of glass to set on top of the bed that weighs a little more than 6 pounds. There are 2 large sheets of masking tape for printing on, which I have no intention of using. Also included is a parts box with a spare PTFE tube and some blue spaghetti.
Somebody touch my spaghetti!
There's a bag full of tools with some wrenches, zip ties, and flush cutters. There's a piece of paper that explains how the filament runout sensor works. The obligatory blue USB cable, a US-friendly power cable, the patron scraper of hand injuries, a standard filament spool holder, and a bag of screws and braces to hold the frame together. Also, there's a bag of binder clips to hold the glass on the bed, a bag of spare parts, a roll of masking tape, the filament runout sensor itself, a micro SD card and a USB reader, and a small spool of crappy white PLA filament. After getting everything unboxed, it was a little bit of a struggle assembling the printer by myself. Also, there were a few problems that needed addressing. First and most importantly, some of the cables from the control box aren't long enough. Even if the printer were oriented in the direction they intended, the X-axis cables aren't long enough to raise the X-axis all the way to the top while the control box is sitting on the table. So by default, this printer can't actually print the full print height, unless you set the control box in some kind of riser. However, I had already anticipated this being a problem because I knew how big the printer was going to be, and I knew I planned on turning it sideways. So I ordered some control box extension cables from Amazon. I would say this is almost mandatory for this printer, but if you have unlimited free space and a riser, in a pinch you can probably make it work out of the box. The second problem, which I already touched on earlier, the glass bed is 6 freaking pounds. And unless you have the right slicer settings, you could end up with some horrible ringing or ghosting in the Y-axis. To be fair, they actually used a pretty heavy-duty belt for the Y-axis to make up for the weight of the bed, which makes sense, but damn.
Damn, boy, he's thick! Boy, that's a thick-ass boy!
You could just take the glass bed off and lay down some masking tape and print on top of that. However, there are many recessed screw holes in the top of the bed that will limit the space where you can actually print. So my solution to this problem was to buy a 20 by 20 inch piece of PEI from Gizmo Dorks. It's flexible, weighs less than a pound, and you can clip it on with the binder clips just like the glass bed. Also, PEI works great for PLA or ABS as long as the bed is hot enough. Which brings me to the third problem. By default, the bed only heats up in the middle. It's actually just a regular CR10 bed attached to the bottom of a big 20 by 20 bed. And the heat doesn't radiate out much from there. So basically, without upgrades, you're going to have a hard time using the whole print volume. I do have some more upgrades already planned and started filming, so as long as I don't lose interest or get distracted, since I apparently have the attention span of a goldfish, I should hopefully have at least one more video up sometime soon making improvements to this printer. I promise I'm not trying to just harp on the bad aspects, so I will get to the good in a minute, but the last problem that really stood out to me is a result of the overall size of the bed. In the past, I've made several videos giving suggestions on ways to install an auto bed leveling sensor on other printers, and I get the occasional comment from purists who are wholeheartedly against the concept of using them. To some extent, I can appreciate that perspective because there are some downsides of using auto bed leveling sensors on small printers. With a small enough bed, it's considerably easier to manually level your bed and make sure the nozzle is roughly an equal distance from all points where you plan to print. If you don't mind the regular hassle of having to manually level your bed after every print or every couple of prints, this can make for some better accuracy and less inconsistencies caused by quirks in the auto bed leveling functionality of your firmware. However, with a 20 by 20 inch bed, good luck getting the nozzle an equal distance from all points. I do have to give Creality props for the design of the bed on this printer, as it is incredibly flat and stable for the size. However, even after spending 20 minutes trying to level it, there were still some areas where the nozzle was just much closer to the bed than others. Judging by the sample prints that came on the SD card, their solution to this problem is just to use a raft for every print. However, if you plan on printing something much bigger like I do, that's going to be a massive amount of filament to waste on just a raft. And if for some reason part of the raft fails, you could end up using a disgusting amount of filament while waiting to figure that out. As such, I feel like the best solution is just to install an auto bed leveling sensor. It's really not that hard and will make sure that the first layer is going to follow the curve of the bed every time without having to struggle with constantly adjusting screws. To me, it's just worth it. Your results may vary. So I've done nothing but complain so far. Do I even like this printer? Well, yes. Maybe the most obvious reason, it's enormous. The print volume is 500 by 500 by 500 millimeters, which is roughly 20 inches in all directions, and that makes for some interesting opportunities. It does take up a lot more space than my other printers, so I may end up selling a couple of those off at some point. A couple of features I particularly like about this printer, unlike my other CR10s, this one came with two Z-axis stepper motors, and they were very well adjusted straight out of the box. I pretty much unwrapped them and ran prints with very little adjustments. Also, the printer comes with an optional filament runout sensor, which is nice. If you run out of filament mid-print, it will pause the print and let you change out the filament before continuing. Or if you don't want to use the filament runout sensor, it comes with a bypass board that you can plug the sensor cable into just to skip it altogether. Also, if your power goes out mid-print, you can restart the print assuming it didn't pop off the bed in the time it was turned off. This should really be standard on any decent 3D printer, so I'm happy to have this, especially on a printer that I will likely have running for multiple days at a time. I ran a couple of test prints from the samples on the included SD card, and both of them turned out really nice. For the cat print, I used the glass bed that was included, and for the dog print, I used the PEI sheet, and I didn't really notice much of a difference in quality. As I said, the results were pretty decent for both, but it's hard to judge the print quality of a 400 square inch bed if you're only using 1 square inch of print space. Also, both sample prints used a raft, which I'm not particularly a fan of, but it's to be expected with such a massive bed. Even if you haven't done the best job leveling your bed, or if the bed is slightly uneven in some places, using a raft on your print can help even out the first layer and make sure your print doesn't fail. So it makes sense printer companies like Creality would go this direction with their sample prints. Also, the cat print does have an interesting texture that will cover up a lot of problems, so it's easier to get a good looking print without a finely tuned printer. In my opinion, if you're just looking for something to print smaller sized projects, I wouldn't recommend this printer. Out of the box, it's really only useful for printing smaller models, which I think is dumb, and there are considerably cheaper printers that will take up a lot less space and probably do as good or better quality prints without all of the hassle. However, if you're looking for a project printer that can be upgraded to take on really big prints after some effort and extra cash, this one may be worth your time. Just make sure you wait until it goes on sale. Currently, I have lined up an auto bed leveling sensor to be installed, a silicone bed heater that covers the entire bed, and adhesive sheets to secure the PEI sheet in place. So it should work similar to how a Prusa printer works in the end, but on a massive scale. Later, I would like to convert it to a Core XY printer, as they have the potential to take up less space and have much better print quality, since they're not fighting with trying to move a massive 20-inch bed back and forth. I do have footage shot for a couple of other videos that I just haven't been able to force myself to edit yet. Needless to say, it's been a crazy year so far, and the last video did a lot better than I was expecting. Thank you to everybody who liked, commented, and subscribed after the last one. It's exciting and terrifying at the same time. I would like to be able to start creating videos on a more regular basis, but knowing myself, I can't promise anything. However, I do sincerely appreciate all the support and nice comments. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. If this video was at all helpful or interesting, feel free to click the like or subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.